Hey guys, so today's the start of a new series here. Still working on the Porsche behind me, right there. But I'm gonna start a new series in parallel, which is gonna be just the Harbor Freight English wheel. That's gonna be just me, probably just best characterized as playing around with it and modifying it for to fit whatever I figure I need coming up. Talking about the various deficiencies of it. Like I know there's quite a few that I was reading about earlier today. So I'll talk about those and talk about how I'm going to address them, and not necessarily how to address them. Anyways, I'm going to put this thing together first off. Oh, and just for the guys who noticed that I called this the Harbor Freight English wheel rather than the Princess Auto English wheel, it's for one good reason. It is absolutely identical to that one. As a matter of fact, when I was reading through the instruction manual, it said, in case you have any problems, please contact Harbor Freight for any issues. So it clearly is identical to the Harbor Freight one. So the Princess Auto one is no different. There you go, guys. It's all together. It didn't take too long. Less than an hour. So, what have I noticed so far with this thing? Well, here's what the typical complaints are about this unit. That the frame is not very rigid, particularly up here. And if you look down here, if I just stand on this, you can actually see that just by pulling on the top I can make it move. So it's not really that rigid. And a couple other complaints were that this wasn't running true. It certainly has a lot of friction, I'll say that, but I don't think that's going to be too big a deal. I'm sure it'll wear in. So I'll put the dial indicator on that and check that. The other comment that somebody had was that these two dies were not particularly well aligned. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually better when this is on the back side of this than it was when this is on the front side. It actually was very visibly offset this way on there. The other thing, a lot of people complained about this. This is the locking lever, or quick release, I guess is really what it is. And that it's in the way. I guess if it's behind, it's not as much in the way, but when you're locking it, it's coming, I believe it's coming up, so it would directly be, yes, that would be locked right there in this position in my case. And that, yeah, is not really particularly handy. Another complaint was that this piece here was turned a little bit too small, and consequently it's kind of sloppy, so you're going back and forth, it's wobbling. Now when I first read about that, obviously I hadn't assembled it, and my first thought was to bore this piece out so that I could sleeve it, but obviously that's not practical because it's all one piece with the frame. But the other possibility is this piece here is actually separate from this casting, so there's no reason why you couldn't, anybody with a lathe anyways, couldn't remove it. These two set screws on either side hold it in place. Remove it, turn down another one to slightly larger size, just with this end, and here turn down a little bit smaller, and take up that slot. It is a fair bit. That's actually shocking on slot. Yeah, it doesn't help that if I just lock this. There's some slop in that as well, so it's going to compound. Another thing I don't like is the fact that this isn't keyed so that it would either go, like straight on, or 90 degrees. Although I don't. That's not very useful unless that could be moved to 90 degrees. So I don't know why it wasn't keyed. That would, well, yeah, this part would be very hard to key, but there's probably a way around it. I could probably just, key this piece and just have a set screw that goes in there to kind of guide it. It's not too big a deal there. I'm trying to think of what some of the other complaints some other people had. Well, I think that's enough for right now anyways. When people commented about that they ended up sleeving this to kind of have it lock in place, because it does turn freely, but like I always was told that the reason why they have that down there so you can kind of knock it over with your filthy dirty jeans. when you want to tighten it up, or you know, and so on, so you don't have to let go of the panel you're working on. I don't know. I'm either way. You couldn't really do that though, because this locks it up. Otherwise, this is gonna be flobbering all over the place. So yeah, that doesn't really work. So once again, that's another vote for keying that one. Some people were talking about polishing these things. I don't think it's necessarily a complaint. I think you can polish those easily enough. Like, it's actually not too bad a finish. Okay, well, rather than trying to find other reasons to dislike this thing, how's about I put the dial indicator on here and we'll see if we can measure the run out. Okay, so I got the dial indicator set up here, and I already checked the run out. If we wheel it along here, we'll see that we're getting about 6 thou of run out. That's the maximum there. So it's not as bad as what some people have had, which have been a 12 thou run out. It still is pretty high, I think. When you're rolling a 30 thou panel, 5 thou is actually quite a big percentage of that number. And what that'll do is that'll put waves in your panel. So I'll probably have to go and turn this down a bit, you know. It's unfortunate. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to chuck this in the lathe, because you really want to hold it by the center and turn the outside. I'll probably just have to go and make like a little piece of bar stock that's the size of the center of this, and indexes in that way off of that, because it's really the bearings that are the important part for that. Because who knows, maybe the slop is in the bearings. I could take the bearings out and check them, I guess, as well, but I'm not going to. One other complaint somebody had was that there was a fair bit of looseness in this upper thing, where in the upper wheel, where as soon as you put the tension on it, this wheel pushed upwards. It looks like they've corrected that issue. I was actually kind of thinking about it, you know, considering the fact that this wheel has been around for certainly 3 or 4 or however many years, that, you know, how few things they have actually corrected on it. But, you know, obviously making the frame thicker is going to increase the cost, so they weren't going to do that. But that one was a fairly easy one, I think, to fix, was just to do that differently. This one, you would have thought would have, you know, this looseness you would have thought would have been an easy one to fix. I'm surprised they didn't deal with that one. It may not be this piece that's the problem. It may be that this is not made consistently. Who knows? Maybe it's got a taper on the bore of it, or maybe it's just rough machined. Who knows? Anyways, I'm going to try a little bit of wheeling. There was a piece, start of a bowl that I created at one point when I was trying out some tuck shrinking, and I'm going to wheel that out and see how that goes. So I'll return when I'm done wheeling. So I guess showing you this now, after I'm more or less done, doesn't mean a lot, not showing you how it looked before. But you can still see some of the remains of the tucks. At this point, probably the smart thing to do would be to go back and pound on that, tuck shrink it a little bit more, and then run it through again. I started out with 2-inch anvil run at the top, and I ended up switching to the 4-inch because it seemed to resemble this contour a little bit closer. But yeah, it's something. It's fooling around. Another one I did on a proper. Well, this is rusted quite badly, but this is the one that I did on a proper English wheel, tuck shrinking around the edges. You can see some of the marking. I don't remember, that was long enough ago that I did that I don't even remember how long I spent wheeling it, but it was one of those 2-day, you know, metal meet things where you just show up, bring what you got, and share it with everybody else, where they all try out different machines. Like I brought my TIG welder that time, where you know, a bunch of guys brought English wheels, shrinker, stretchers, that sort of fun stuff. Anyways, by the way, I would recommend it if you find one that's in your area. You know, metalmeet.com is the forum for that sort of stuff. A lot of good guys show up there. A lot of guys, all varying skill levels, bring equipment. You can try it out and maybe learn something. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for today. I don't know what the plan is going to be tomorrow. I think I'm going to try and leave this thing alone. I had my little play with it, and And now I'll leave it off and try and get some more work done on this thing. The whole excuse for buying this thing right now was so that I could make door skins for this thing here. We'll see how that goes, because this side of this thing is none too nice, and it's not a simple, flat roll. It's got crown on it. I think I measured it at one point, and from the center to the low sides, it's a 1/4 inch down on either side. So it's definitely got some crown to it. So, anyways, I digress again. Anyways, so what I will be working on tomorrow is, well, I guess grinding out this stuff, and then making a patch to fill this spot, and I still have to decide where I'm going with this here. It looks really awful here, but it is still solid. So anyways, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.